Right, so this video is basically illustrates drawing a simple asymmetric faceted bowl form, but at the same time it helps explain how kind of 3D drawing is made out of points and edges and then faces. Right, so the first thing here is, again, I don't want any of these items, so clicking in the workspace, it's then pressing the key A for all. That selects everything in the 3D area, and then press X for delete and delete. Right. So now what I want to do is go through just starting with a point and then drawing a line and then building faces onto that line. So I'm going to add a plane, and that just automatically gets added to there. Now I just want one point from this, so I'm actually going to view this from the top. So I could view it Z, and that is the top view, or I could go view and viewpoints and from the top over there, or as you saw there from the new viewpoints, it's numpad 7. So if you have numpads, the numbers over to the right of your keyboard, press 7, you also go up to top view. Okay. Now I want to start editing this plane that I've preset plane. I'm in object mode. All your adding of materials gets done in object mode. And now we'll go into edit mode. Okay, and the tab key will do that. So enter tab. I select one of the little dots, and these dots are called vertices. And now I just want to retain that one, so I actually want to delete these three, but obviously you would delete what is selected, so we've been doing this before. Control I is to invert the selection, so now the other three are selected. X for delete. Now when we go X for delete, rather than it just saying, to kind of delete, happy delete, it actually specifies what you want to delete. And in this case, we want to do the little dots that are called vertices. Okay, so now we've got one dot left there. And I now want to sort of draw the base shape of what my bowl will be. In computer graphics, basically a line joins the dot. So now what one does is hold down the control key, okay, control, and then it is a right click, not a left click, but a right click, and a line is built, from first dot to the second. So right click on my mouse, and oops, that one didn't work. There we go. My mouse is a bit suspect, and possibly one more. Okay. Now, if I go and actually click on top of that one, it won't in fact join it. So now what I need to do is to join this dot to that dot. So this one is already selected, so I hold down Shift for multiple selection, and then it is left click because I want to select that one, and now both of those are selected, and the key shortcut is F for fill, so we want to fill the gap here, so press F. Whoops, it was a bit more than expected. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. All I wanted to do was bridge it. I held it down too long, so it started filling up the whole region. Right, so I've now sort of basically drawn the profile of the base of my bowl. Now I want to start drawing lines upwards into 3D. Now, if I say select that and try and draw up, I could, do the Shift right click, Control right click thing again. So there's the Control right click, and it's drawn a line up into space. But this line is drawn at the angle of the screen. So if, I'm navigating with my middle mouse button, you can see that's really angled back because that's the angle that this plane was in relation to the screen. So when you actually do the kind of the vertical drawing, Control Z undoes that. What you want to do is look at it straight on. So we can either click on the Y over there, or numpad 3 was the same place, numpad 1, whichever. Anyway, so that's now sitting, kind of on my work surface. I can then just go straight up Well, I do want the edge of the bowl to be slightly angled, but I know at least this will now be vertical off the, sort of the base plate. So what are we? We will control and then a right click for drawing the line. Okay, so now we've got a vertical line growing out of that. Now I go back to looking at it from on top to draw another circle of lines. So that was numpad 7, or looking from on top. Hold on, control and draw another sort of bunch of lines. I've got the same number, and now I need to once again just join that to that and an F for full. Okay, so you can see we start to get the kind of the structure of a potential mesh here. Now I can start filling this with surfaces. So if I select 3 now and go F for fill, it actually builds a surface. And so there are actually selection keys up here. So we've been working with the vertice. If I hold over there, vertice selected. If I then go to the next one and click on that, then my left click actually collects the whole line rather than the points. So similarly, you could build a surface. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then it'll just bridge this across here automatically. So again, F for fill, and there we are. So we've actually got, a triangle there, but here you've got a 4-sided surface. And you can see how it's taken on a really weird curve to it across here. So that's actually not a good idea. One should be filling this with triangles. There are, you can mix 4-sided surfaces and 3-sided surfaces, but you just need to make sure that the surface kind of is there should be a diagonal line across here to take this change in surface in there. So I'm going to undo that, and so let's deselect that one by clicking a selected surface. So I've now actually got only these 2 sides, and it'll bridge over there automatically. Full, all right, and so then I can build that one as well into there. Okay, so if I'm going across, that was the points, the vertices, those are the edges or the lines, and then this one here would select a surface. So if I try and kind of click on where there was a point, I'm not going to get anything, but where I've already put on a surface, we now been able to select surfaces. And when you're modeling, there are times where you want to work with the surfaces rather than the points, but the kind of the point or the vertices tends to be your default. So I am going to just fill that as a quad. So that's pretty straight, so that's 4-sided, all right. But here I'm going to need to do 3-sided, all right. Now just be careful, and I keep doing it, is I press down Shift and go off and select here. But in actual fact, that one is still selected. And if I continued, you'd end up with 2 faces on top of here. So when you are doing this sort of filling, you must make sure that only the surfaces, or the points where you want to build a surface are selected. Okay, I think this one could also be a quad. It doesn't seem to be bent too much either. It isn't selected at the bottom. I think I might put triangles across here. Now, do I want the triangle to go across there or across there? I think I'm going to have it in this direction, so I'm going to actually put this one in first. Okay. And then that one, and I think I'm going to keep this as a 4-sided. Okay, this is quite a strong kind of diagonal across here, though. With clay 3D printing, the clay wants to fall down sort of while it's being printed, so you don't want too sort of dynamic angles. These angles here are right, but in here it's a little bit dynamic. So I think what I'm going to do is by going just to my move, select that one, Then I can just move this in a little bit and possibly a bit in that direction too. Okay, and this one I might move out this way a little bit as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of liking this crease, but I think it was just a bit too dynamic. Right, so that's, you could be getting on and printing that, but I think I want to go up one more level, and also to sort of help you see, get this idea of ways of working. So we've done it before. I want to select all of those vertices around the top, and obviously I could go shift and then go and do them all one at a time, but also know if I hold down the Alt button and then left click, it'll take all of the top. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is actually, I've selected that ring, I'm just going to extrude them straight up. So that extrusion is something you'll do a lot of in time. I think there must be, extrusion is there, and you can extrude, and you can see it was extruding kind of in the line. I tend to not use that button, so as you can gather, I'm not very used to using it. Control Z, I've undone that. I tend to extrude by just using my pointer and then E for extrusion. Okay, E for extrusion, and then I do want it restricted to the vertical. Obviously, you can see it's now extruding in any direction you want. But if I press Z, key Z, then it'll only go in the vertical direction. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm going to just scale that out a little bit as well. Okay. Now I can pull this around a little. So G for grab, I'm selecting just one point. G for grab. And I can change how this is a little. Quite liking the dynamic of that. I think this one could come out a little bit down and out. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay, so as I say, very basic asymmetric bowl, but it starts to give you an indication. Now, in a previous video, I'd spoken about loop cut. So where's that? This tool here, and you can see, that will work on here as well. I could cut in the vertical direction. There we are. It'll go around the top here because this is all four-sided surfaces. But here, because it's been broken into triangles, you can see that the loop cut doesn't want to actually go across a triangle. So it'll do a four-sided, all right, anyway. So let's just, as a way of demonstration, put that in there as well. Okay, I don't want any more, so I go back to my selector. And this is it, if you want to add more points to change the form a bit, then that's a way of doing it, by actually loop cutting it. Or there is also a so-called knife, and I can then, I'm holding down my left click, as you can see, and then taking that to an angle there, and then it might go to there. And then I press enter, must press enter to accept it, and then you can see you've sort of entered some more points. Right, that was a straight line. Get out of my knife, I go back to my pointer for selection. Say the move is often a good idea to know that you're keeping it in a horizontal direction. Okay. Right, so another thing that is really useful, I've just got to find a good face to do it on. I'm going to do it here anyway, and that is with loop cut and with the knife, I've managed to add points. Now, if by any chance I want to merge points or get points to stick together, I can select that one, hold down Shift, select that one, and then on my keyboard it's press M for merge, and you can merge it so that the last one goes to the first one, or it goes to the center of the two, or the last one. So I want the last one. Okay. So you can see the whole time, kind of my thought process here is that I'm drawing with the dots, and then the dots create a line, and then the line creates the surface. So the whole time it's kind of the vertices of the lines that I'm thinking about and how to move them. Right, what else? Actually, I think just for a bit of character, I'm going to put a bit of a rim on this bowl. So again, Alt left click was to select everything. So I'm now going to extrude, and in the Z direction just a little bit, and then S for scale. I mean, here I'm just trying to add a bit of kind of asymmetry to it so that it isn't similar all over. Right. Now, if by any chance, while you've been busy working, just grab that one and pull that down a bit, and that one has gone up a little bit. Okay. If I looked at this from straight on, you can see now that the bottom of the drawing isn't lying flat on the work surface, or on the print, the print surface. Now this would be a problem when you come to print. So it's always important that your base is horizontal or flat. So we've got here a base that is kind of all over the place, and to level it off is scale in the Z direction by 0, and then you do need to enter that before making another move, otherwise it's going to pull it out of shape. Okay, so similarly with the top, if by any chance we had kind of got this all over the place, you could be Alt left click to select everything, and then scale in the Z plane by 0 and enter. And now let's level that as well. Right, back to, I've been doing all this in edit mode. In edit mode is where you can see the vertices and the edges and the surfaces. Back to object mode. That's my world mode. Now, still while you're you can't now edit individual pieces, but what you can do is play with the proportions and scale. Within here I might scale in the Y direction, that's the green direction. And I might decide that it's actually a little bit taller than I wanted. I'm just going to go into orthographic view. I think it gives you a better indication of what it really looks like. In perspective view, it was all a bit kind of dynamic, and I think this is now boxy, that I think is more realistic how it'll look like as a small object. So scale in the Z, and I might just bring it down a bit so it's not such a tall. Now looking at that, that could be a bit too much of a sort of a horizontal movement for the printer to print well. So I'm just going to select that and move it in a little bit just so it's not quite as overhanging as it was. Okay, tab will get me back to the object mode. Now this, once again, we've been modeling this in virtual reality, and possibly we do just need to see what its size is in kind of real terms. So when I'm in object mode, the object is selected. Obviously, if I press N for numbers, it will give me the measurements of this, but I can't act on it until it is selected. And it's 3 millimeters, so that's going to be rather tiny to try and print. So my best bet here, rather than, you could put in numbers if you know exactly what your numbers were, but I tend to just press S for scale and then scale, looking at what the numbers are. And I think I want something that is kind of 10 centimeter, 12 centimeter across somewhere. So at the moment this is 1.8 centimeter. So I scale again. So I'm looking for something that's, like 120 millimeter. There we are. Kind of, so the Y direction, so that's my widest direction, is about 11 centimeters across there. Okay, and so these boxes are about a centimeter. Well, they are a centimeter, to give you an idea. Okay. So you then, file, save as, and save your project so that you can come back and edit it, work on it later, and then file, export, and export the STL to be able to then take that to the slicing and then slice it for your 3D printer.